you lovely people, and welcome to another video. We are in week 3 of my living on 80 euros a month challenge. And I know that you had to wait a little bit longer for a video. I didn't intend it to happen, but there were reasons for it. Let's just say a little trip to the emergency room was involved. I will talk about this towards the end of the video if you want to know about it, because I know that most of you are here for the cooking. So without any further ado, let's get shopping. From last week, we had left some rice, some spinach, some red lentils, an onion, some garlic and some ginger. Not enough to cook meals for a week, so I went straight to Edeka. You know I cannot resist these veggies and fruits that you can get without any packaging at all. I quickly grabbed some onions and garlic for flavor, and then also some carrots and some potatoes. Some of the cheapest veggies, at least where I live, always. Then I grabbed one of the biggest leeks I had ever seen, and also a pumpkin. They were on sale because it is the season for pumpkins. So I grabbed one, not the biggest one, a medium-sized one, because I knew I didn't need more than about a pound of it. I also got one lemon, which was a bit of a splurge for 99 cents, but what can you do? And also some tomato paste. Always great for flavor as well. Apart from that, I needed some applesauce, and I chose the organic one because it was still in the budget, and also a bottle of white wine vinegar. I needed that for a specific recipe, but I was also completely out of it. I also got some oat milk and some dry white beans. Finally, the white beans are coming back. Last on the list were some dried tomatoes in oil, bit of a splurge, but you know, it was for a recipe, and one bag of flour, and then I headed straight home. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is everything I bought for this week. Back here, 2 liters of oat milk. I can never go without any oat milk. Impossible. Then 1 kilogram of flour, 1 big glass of applesauce, organic, by the way, a big bag of white beans, 900 grams to be exact, which is about 2 pounds. Then we have 1 tube of tomato paste, also organic. I was completely out of tomato paste and I need it for a recipe. Then we also have a glass of dried tomatoes in oil. Then we have 1 little pumpkin. We have 1 onion and another bulb of garlic. We've got 2 potatoes, 3 carrots, 1 lemon and a huge leek. And then we also have a bottle of balsamic vinegar. Now, I said that I would always restock whatever I don't have left in my pantry, and I was out of balsamic vinegar, so we restocked the balsamic vinegar and also the tomato paste, if you will. And all of this came to 18 euros and 76 cents. I am about €1.24 under budget, and I said I would stay 2 euros under budget because of the pasta that I forgot to account for. But since I only used half of the box of pasta, I hope that's okay. Basically, the pasta that I used would have come to about €1. So I think that's fair. Alrighty, and with this and what we have left from last week, we will now start cooking breakfast, lunch and dinner for a whole week. Huzzah! For breakfast this week, we're going to make rice pudding. My recent love for rice pudding comes from the fact that during one of my last budget challenges, I had some rice left over and I didn't know what to do with it. And then one of my viewers commented that I could just make rice pudding. And I was like, what? Don't you need like a specific type of rice for it? Actually, you don't. You can just use parboiled rice. It works fine. I tried. So what we need for the rice pudding is a liter of oat milk, 250 grams of rice, and the applesauce will be just like the topping. So what we do first is we're going to take a big pot and add some sunflower seed oil to it. The recipe says butter, but I found that if you don't have butter, if you can't afford it, just use a neutral type of cooking oil like sunflower seed oil and it works just fine. So we add the oil to the big pot. Then we add 250 grams of the rice and saute it there for a few minutes. Don't let it get brown, don't let it burn, but saute it for a while. Then we add the whole liter of oat milk and we let that come to a boil. After that, we reduce it to a simmer and then put the lid on the pot and let it simmer for 30 minutes. We will check it at least after 15 minutes, maybe earlier, and just stir it so it doesn't burn. But after 30 minutes, it is done. The original recipe also says to add sugar, but personally I think the oat milk is already slightly sweet, so I will taste it at the end and then decide if I want to add sugar. After 30 minutes, it is done. You can portion it out and then serve it with the apple sauce. And here, ladies and gentlemen, we have the finished product. As you could see, I did add some sugar because the oat milk was not enough. I think I added about 2 tablespoons, but you add as much as you want. Now, I portion out 1 serving for myself here. There's the rice pudding in the middle and the applesauce around it, and I just added a little bit of cinnamon on top because I like that very much. I also portion out 3 more servings in these handy little glasses that I saved. I think there was vegan Nutella in them. And these I will put in the fridge for the next few days. And then we have more rice pudding over here. And we also have more applesauce here. And I'm pondering whether or not I should freeze that. I've never frozen rice pudding before, so I'm not sure. If you know if that works, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just try and see what happens. Alrighty, and now I will enjoy this. Bye-bye. The first meal we're going to cook is a sun-dried tomatoes and butterbean stew. And for that, we need, first and foremost, the beans. And as you can see, I already took half of the beans, soaked them overnight, 8 to 10 hours, and then I cooked them in plain old water until they were done, which took about 45 to 60 minutes. I mean, with beans, you just want to make sure you try and taste them, and if they are really, really soft, then they are done. That's what I do. Now, additionally to the beans, we need, of course, sun-dried tomatoes. We need some of the oat milk. We need a few cloves of garlic, the spinach, the white wine vinegar, and some Italian herbs. The recipe says thyme and oregano, or is it thyme and rosemary? I can't remember at the moment. I'll look it up. But I have Italian herbs, just a mixture, so I will use that instead. Please note that we only need half of these cooked beans. I took half of the dry beans, which was about a pound or 450 grams, and cooked. They gave me more than a kilo of cooked beans. So we don't need a kilo of beans for this recipe. We only take half of that, and the other half goes back into the fridge for another recipe. So what we do first is we're going to do some chopping. We will take the leek and chop it into half-moon rings, and then we will wash it very thoroughly because a leek can contain quite a lot of dirt. We will also take 3 cloves of garlic and peel them and mince them very finely. And then we will take about a quarter of the dried tomatoes, drain them, and also cut them up. By the way, don't throw away the oil in that glass of dried tomatoes. We can totally use that to cook. I always keep that at home, and that means you don't have to buy more oil. After chopping up all of the ingredients, we will heat some oil in a pot over medium-high heat and cook the leek for about 3 to 4 minutes until it is soft. Then we will add the garlic and the Italian herbs, and we will cook that for about 2 minutes. By the way, it says about half a teaspoon of dried thyme and half a teaspoon of dried rosemary. I looked it up. So we will use about 1 teaspoon of Italian herbs, and it will be fine. After that, we will add the sun-dried tomatoes and about a tablespoon of flour, just all-purpose flour, and we will continue to stir that and cook that for another minute or so. Then we will add about 300 milliliters of water and a bouillon cube. We will bring that to a boil and then reduce it to a simmer and cook until it is thickened. So once this is thickened, we will stir in the beans and about 200 milliliters of the oat milk. Strictly speaking, the recipe says soy cooking cream, but I just always take oat milk and it works just fine. If you feel that it lacks a certain richness, just add some more oil and that usually does the trick. By the way, then once the beans and the oat milk have been added, we will cook that for another 2 minutes, and then we will add the spinach and 2 tablespoons of white wine vinegar plus some ground black pepper and salt to taste. So once everything has cooked for a bit and the spinach has wilted, or in my case thawed, we will serve this with some toasted bread. And here, ladies and gentlemen, we have the finished product. This is quite a lot. You could see that I added more salt and some sugar and also a bit more oil because it really needs a little bit of fat in there. So I added some oil and I tasted it and it's good. Oh, this is good. I love the sun-dried tomatoes in this. Personally, I think I would even add a little bit more of those. The recipe said like 50 grams, but I could easily amp this up to 100 grams, I think. Personal taste, guys. I love sun-dried tomatoes. And with the leek and all the spices and the white wine vinegar, it's delicious. I would say, like, this is one serving, and I think there are at least 3 more in this, probably 4. And I'm gonna eat this with some white bread. You can see I made a loaf of white bread, and I've made this many times before on this channel, so I thought I didn't have to make it again here in this video. If you're interested in how to make it, watch that video up there or up there. I'll leave a link for you. Alrighty? Okie dokie. Then now, please excuse me while I enjoy this stew. White beans, guys. Who knew, right? I never thought to cook with white beans, and now I love them. Nom nom nom. The second meal for this week is a red lentil soup. You remember me making a lentil soup last week and also saying that it was not as good as the Turkish red lentil soup that I had made quite a while ago. Now, this week, I want to make the Turkish soup and see if it is really as good as I remember it. We only need a few ingredients for that. A big onion, a few cloves of garlic, 250 grams of red lentils, a potato, a carrot, tomato paste, and some spices. In my case, a tablespoon of sweet paprika powder, a teaspoon of cumin, ground cumin, and also a tiny little bit of chili powder. Toby and I are not good with spice, so we'll keep the spiciness to a minimum. What we're going to do first is we're going to peel and chop up the onion, a few cloves of garlic, in my case probably 3 to 4, but you can take more or less according to your preference. Then we will also peel and chop up the potato and the carrot. We will first saute the onion and the garlic in a little bit of oil in a big pot. After a few minutes, we will add the carrot and the potato and the 250 grams of lentils, also washed, and then we will let that saute for another few minutes. Then we will add about 1 liter of veggie broth and we will let that cook until the lentils and everything is done. This is a lentil soup and it's good, but it's quite bland until now. But then you add a lot more flavor. For that, we take a small pan, we add 2 tablespoons of sunflower seed oil. Normally you would take butter, but we don't have butter, so we're just going to use the oil and it will be fine. To the oil, we will add the spices and let them bloom for a bit. And then we will add 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. We'll let that just brown for a bit. You don't want it to turn black, you don't want it to burn, but give it a little bit of time and then add it to the soup. Add salt and pepper to your liking, and then the soup is done. And here we have the finished product, and you guys, it is as good as I remember it. This soup is so awesome. I just put a little bit of lemon juice on it. That's what I bought the lemon for. But this is really, really awesome. We have 4 servings in here, 4 very generous servings. So if you want some smaller servings for lunch, you could have 5, maybe 6, but we'll go with 4. I love this, guys. I need to eat this right now. See you later. Bye-bye. And the third meal we're going to cook is a pumpkin soup with some hidden beans and rice. For this, we need obviously the pumpkin, although we won't need all of it. I think about half of it because the recipe says you need about 500 grams, which equals out to a little bit more than a pound, and this is easily about 1 kilo. So we'll take about half of the pumpkin and just, store the rest for next week. Then we need a potato, 2 carrots, 2 cloves of garlic, 1 onion, a little bit of ginger, that I actually still have left from the first week of this challenge. Then we need the rest of the beans that I have already cooked up. We need about 200 milliliters of oat milk, a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of rice. That's all the rice we have left. And then some spices. In this case, we have 2 teaspoons of curry powder, 1 teaspoon of sweet paprika powder, and a tiny little bit of nutmeg. What we will do first is obviously a little bit of peeling and chopping. We need to peel and chop up the onion, the garlic, the carrots, and the potato. We do not have to peel the pumpkin because the skin of the Hokkaido pumpkin is edible, so just leave that on. So we will just take the seed outs of the pumpkin and then chop it up into bigger pieces. After that, we will take a big pot and add a little bit of oil, and then we will saute first the onions for just a little bit, 2 to 3 minutes. Then we will add the garlic and a little bit of grated ginger, and also let that saute for like 2 minutes. Then we will add the carrots, the potato, the pumpkin, and all of the spices, and let that brown for, again, 2 to 3 minutes. You never want spices to burn, so keep an eye on them, but you want to let them, roast a little bit so they get a lot of flavor. Then we will add 500 milliliters of veggie broth and let this cook until all of the veggies are soft, which will take about 20 minutes probably. After that, we will add some salt and pepper to taste and a little bit of lemon juice, and then we will either let it be like that or blitz it up in the Thermomix. Now, personally, Toby and I like our soups to be a bit on the chunky side, so I'm seeing how it is. But if we want it smooth, we can always blend it up, either in a blender, mixer, or in our case, the Thermomix. And to add a little bit of protein to this, we will actually add all of the beans. They are already cooked, so all we have to do is make sure we mix them up in the Thermomix and add them. And also, since we have that little bit of rice left, I will just wash and add the rice and let it cook in the soup for a bit. This is just for me, I like to have some rice in soups. I think it gives it a nice texture, and the beans are obviously there for protein. Now, after all of that, hopefully this soup is good and we can enjoy it. And here, ladies and gentlemen, we have the finished pumpkin soup. Now, please note that if you cook this exactly like I did and you add the rice towards the end when you've already pureed that soup, then please make sure to stir frequently. Otherwise, the rice might sink to the bottom and might burn. I'm not saying that happened to me, but it might have happened to me. I caught it in time, so it's still okay, but it is a real danger. Over here, I plated 1 serving for me. And you can see I added a little bit of vegan sour cream because I still had this in my fridge and it's already 1 month out of date. So, I thought I should probably use it up. And it's fine. I tasted it. It's absolutely fine. But yeah, you don't have to have vegan sour cream or sour cream, but if you have it in the fridge, add it. I already tasted the soup and it's very, very good. I also need to mention that I tweaked the recipe quite a bit. You saw me adding all of those beans. That was a pound of cooked white beans. And therefore, I needed to add a little bit more liquid in the form of another 200 milliliters of oat milk, just to balance it out. Because then I had more volume, I also needed to add more spices. So I added at least a teaspoon of curry powder, half a teaspoon of cumin, and I also added some garam masala just because I like that, and I think it balances out the flavors quite nicely. So I will add these additions in the description box below, so just be sure that I tweaked the original recipe quite a bit. Now, this makes a lot. The original recipe makes 4 servings with the added beans. This is at least 6 servings, and it's very delicious. If you like pumpkin, if you like curry, if you like anything, in gingery as well, this is for you. You don't taste the beans. I cannot say it often enough. You don't taste the white beans. And that is really great because, I just sneaked in a little bit of protein, and that's brilliant. I will now add white beans to anything. Maybe not porridge, but anything else. Okie dokie. And now you have to excuse me because I need to enjoy this soup. Bye-bye. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're getting any kind of value out of it. And if this is the case, then please give me one of these, or maybe comment, or maybe subscribe to my channel. I would personally appreciate it very, very much. Thank you again, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye. But wait, there's more. I promised to tell you what happened, why you had to wait longer for the video. Well, as some of you might know, I am in a theatre group. We have 1 to 2 productions per year, and between the last video and this video, we actually had our show on stage. And that was very stressful, it was very exhausting, it was a very, very funny play, I will say that. I will give you here a photo of the role that I played. It was in a play called Noises Off, in case you know that. If you see the photo, just, guess which role I played. Anyways, we come to the last day of this production. It was packed with people, it was good fun, but as I said, it was very exhausting. And Then we had to dismantle the stage because, you know, we are not professionals. We have to do that ourselves. And during this whole work process, I realized that my pulse became very, very high. I'm not just saying like a little bit elevated. I'm talking really, really high, like this. So I had this occasionally beforehand, and all of my doctors always assured me that it wasn't anything serious. So I didn't pay any attention to it because usually it stopped after a few minutes. So I was just waiting for it to stop, but it didn't. So after 10 or 15 minutes, I became a bit worried because, you know, your heart is not supposed to beat that fast for a longer amount of time. So we have a doctor in our group, a lovely lady, and she took care of me. She measured my pulse, and she said, oh, it's definitely above 160. And it's been for such a long time now that she just wasn't comfortable with me staying there. So she said, let's go to the emergency room. So we get to the emergency room and they measured my pulse again. It was above 200 by that time, 200 beats per minute. Way too fast, as you know. So they kept me there. They gave me some meds. They did a very funny maneuver with me, but it really stopped the whole thing. So after like half an hour, 45 minutes, my pulse was back to normal. My blood pressure was still abnormally high because of all the excitement, but my pulse was back to normal. And they told me that still they think it's nothing serious. So just in case you're worried, it's nothing serious, but they still want me to go to the hospital and just have some, you know, checkups to be absolutely sure. So I will do that over the next few weeks, and then I'll know for sure what's wrong. What I learned from this incident are two things. First of all, I am extremely grateful for nurses and doctors and hospitals. The fact that, I mean, I live in Germany, the fact that I can just go at midnight to a hospital, to an emergency room, and they will immediately take care of me is just so reassuring, you know? And I was so in awe of the nurse there. She was in a very stressful situation, like constantly people were calling her on her phone, but she was still so nice to me. She was still so reassuring and calming me down and doing everything she could. And so, yeah, very respectful, and I was in awe of her, and the doctor as well, but I remember the nurse more because my mom used to be a nurse, so she kind of reminded me of her. That was number one. Extremely grateful for hospitals, nurses, doctors, and I will definitely bring a big basket of chocolate to that hospital in the near future because they deserve it. Thing number two is, and I don't want to get like too emotional here, but when I was lying there, I had like all of these thingies on me, all of these cables and all of these sensors, and I could see the screen with my pulse at 200, and the machine was constantly beeping because it was too high. And after a while, you know, it even though everybody assured me it was nothing to worry about, of course you worry. Of course you worry, because it's not normal. And I couldn't have died, okay? It was not that kind of a thing. It was really nothing special. But of course you start to think about, what if I died right now? And the interesting thing is, I was very peaceful about it. I was just lying there, and there was the nurse taking care of me, and I was like, what happens if I die right now? And first thought was, oh, I feel so sorry for Toby because it would be awful for him. But the second thought was, oh well, then that's it. Like, I had no regrets. I didn't think like, oh, there's still this I wanted to do and that I wanted to do, and like, oh, how awful. And no, I was just lying there. I'm like, oh yeah, well then that's it. That's fine. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I still want to live for a long time, and I want to do a lot of things, but it's kind of nice to think that I don't regret anything. I did a lot of awesome things in my 42 years in this world so far. So even though it was scary, that situation, that was kind of a nice moment, even though it sounds weird. Okay, But that's enough, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough. Now you know why I did not upload sooner. I actually had to take a few days off. I had to rest after this whole episode. And even though I wanted to do something, I really couldn't. I had to rest. But now I'm back. I will get all of my checkups. Everything will be fine. And I hope you will be around for week 4 of the Living on 80 Euros a Month challenge. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.